All right, here we go live. So welcome everyone to Meshery development meeting. Today is 27th of September, Wednesday. So I'll quickly share the meeting minutes in chat. Make sure you mark your attendance. And if you got any agenda related to Meshery, whether it's front end, back end, or anything, feel free to add in. We'll surely discuss your item. And before we start with topics, we have a couple of announcements to make today. And even before that, we'll follow our tradition to welcome newcomers. So if you're joining this call for the first time and haven't introduced yet in any of the calls, so this is your chance. You can unmute yourself and give a quick introduction. So anyone joining for the very first time, you can unmute. All right. I'll quickly take a look at the participants list. All right. Looks like no one is new. Okay. So again, before we move to next items, if you got webcams, I see lots of red X on the webcams and participants list. So don't be shy. This is not a call to shy. You can open your webcams, interact with the community. So Captain Akshay has said he's new. So hi Akshay, would like to sound off and introduce a bit. Tell us more about yourself if you have audio.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yep, you are.
Okay, so my name is Akshay Sharma and I am currently studying in third year in Chandigarh University. And I have recently started contributing to open source repositories, and my tech stack is usually based on Next.js. Currently, I'm like looking forwards for DevOps as well, but like I didn't get any clear roadmap and I'm still searching in that domain. But yeah, I have like intermediate knowledge over React and front end with gRPC and GraphQL. So I am contributing in few of the repositories, like decent amount of code. So I think, yeah, that's about it.
Oh, that's very nice, Akshay. Yeah, definitely. You will find a couple of issues to work over here, and you're at the right place to start with open source. All right. So it's time to make a couple of announcements. First one is let's celebrate the announcement of our newest meshmate in the team, which is Noreen. I hope she's on the call. So let's celebrate Noreen. And second one is our newest intern in the Layer 5 team. That's UI visual designer, Prem. So Prem has joined Layer 5 as a UI visual designer intern. And third is this week on Monday, Lee and Shin gave a talk on IstioCon on multiplayer Istio collaborative Wasm plugin with Intel and Layer 5. So I hope a couple of you were on that particular event. If not, I think they will share the recording. All right. With that, I think we are good to start with today's topics. So Yash would like to take the stage and lead us off.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Let me share my screen.
Hey guys, just for a second, like some of those announcements, it'd be good to get some more context around them. What is a Meshmate? What is Prem going to be doing as a UI intern? What was the talk about? You know, are there links to these things? If these are announcements, what are we? Or Prem or Noreen on? They might be able to help speak to some of this. Or
No, both of them are not on. And speaking about what a meshmate is, so I think tomorrow we have a newcomers call in which all the meshmates and community managers join and they introduce all the projects and all the community roles that are available. So if you are new and you don't know about meshmate, so that's the best call to join. I hope someone will definitely drop a link in chat to the calendar. And talking about UI visual design, so Prem has worked on the recent notification center. That's on the Meshery UI. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do that. And about this talk, STOCon, Lee would like to give a bit more context about this.
No, yeah, do you want, no, go ahead.
Um,
Yeah, so this should be one of our first marketing priorities, by the way, is things like this. So, yep, on Monday, we did a talk at STOCon about Meshery and the way in which it can be used to do, well, collaborative infrastructure configuration. In this case, we were using Istio as an example, specifically Envoy filters. And so Envoy is the data plane proxy inside of Istio. And Envoy is extensible to the extent that you can insert traffic filters. And those traffic filters, they intercept requests to your microservices or to your big fat services, either way, and do things with that traffic. They can introspect the traffic, reject it, pass it along, reroute it, change it, mutate it, enhance it, enrich it, send telemetry about it. They can do a lot of things, and you can chain these filters together. This type of capability isn't unique to Envoy in any sense. This type of a thing has been around since networking has been established. It's just that the ability to do this virtually and programmatically and dynamically load up those filters. I mean, the infrastructure has never been more configurable and never more configurable real time on the fly without rebooting the networking infrastructure, in this case, Envoy. So it's pretty neat. So we've been working with Intel for a bit on, well, on this ability around the configurability of WebAssembly filters. They are into any number of things as a company, but as a specific team, they're into Envoy filters to the extent that they can, well, show that Intel hardware can accelerate things like the establishment of mutual TLS, or MTLS, things like configurable sort of dynamic load balancing. They've got a couple of other WebAssembly filters under wraps at the moment, but they're actively doing work, and they really like Meshery in part, not only because it orchestrates service meshes pretty well, but also because it does such a good job of performance management. So they use Meshery to generate load against systems under test and then confirm how well their filters are doing. One thing they haven't mentioned recently, but I've heard other users mentioning, it was Charter Communications here in the US. They're a service provider. They're interested to have Meshery replay traffic. So currently Meshery generates traffic. It has 3 built-in load generators. It will generate, well, HTTP load, sometime a little bit of gRPC load. But it would be nice if it could record and replay traffic. So to the extent that you want to test out your services by verifying that a particular sequence of transactions with your service happens, you could record a particular session and then replay that session. And maybe instead of generating generic load, you would generate load that is closer to the signature of your actual users. So they would be looking for an enhancement, and I know that Intel would like it as well. Anyway, that's one of those ones that we would do in likely in Golang, but potentially C++. So there's plans for those. The architecture has been written out, and so those would take the shape of a new adapter if we were to do that type of a capability. Anyway, we had a great talk, and I'm sure that the IstioCon will put up the recording soon. I don't know when, but it was a 2-day event, so it just ended yesterday. But it'll be up. If you want to nerd out, watch it, ask your questions. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Lee. So, Yash, would like to go up with your item?
Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, so this issue is about adding the info modal in the pattern in the and the filters. And the reason for that is like if you go on the pattern in the filter page, you may find yourself that you need more information about what about that pattern is and what are the caveats and everything that maybe you need to know about who created that particular pattern. So that information was not exposed presently in the Meshery UI. This PR adds the modal to expose that data, and this is how currently the info model looks. This info model you can easily, if you have access to mesh map, you can easily see this info model. It is already present over there, so I added over there here also. So this is a small video how you can like uh, either add information in your design or in your filter, or you can check out the information of others design. So to do that, you will get an option of an information icon button in the design in the pattern. You can click on that and it will open a modal. If that modal is not if that you are not the owner of the filter or the design, it will only give you the like read only access, not the write access. So you can see the information, it is over there. As you can see, there is small dark mode issues related to RGSF, like the scrolling thing. I am tackling them down, and yeah. And if I go ahead and if I see that this is the design that I created, so now I have access to add information over here and to write things and have a save button so that I can save the information. Yeah, so this is how it like saves the information. So this is the info model that I added currently in the pattern in the design in the filters, not in the application section. So any comments on that? Yeah, this PR is up for review. So if you have any suggestion, you can go on the PR. I will put that in the chat and you can give the review. Yeah, this is an update from my side.
It's good work.
Yeah, sure.
Hey,
You
yeah.
able to.
Okay.
I was just asking, like, were you able to fix that issue which you were facing regarding post request?
No, actually, this is I mentioned you already over there. I tagged you over here. This is how I am sending data. So you can look like if I'm sending the correct data. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I missed it. I'll just check this. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Yash, and I guess this question goes out to everybody on the call, is I wonder if we shouldn't be exposing this ability to set this information maybe in more prominent ways. Do you recall this particular modal? So this is a screenshot of a design. It looks like there's probably a MongoDB deployment inside. Great. And then as the individual that has created the design, and I think in the future, probably teammates that are collaborating on the same design can help capture some metadata about the design. So, what's its purpose? Is it for deployment is what it looks like in this case, the type. We might actually want to change the word type to like purpose. I don't know. Just if that's more descriptive, I don't know. Just thinking out loud. I guess my point or my question here is, well, actually, I guess a couple. That private chip, boy, that certainly looks like a chip and not styled like a label that we have for public and private. And so it could get confusing. How can users pull up this modal? And what's the normal flow in which they would pull up this modal?
Okay, so to open this model, you will get the I button in the side of the other buttons that we have for the download and the publish, and you can click on that. I think it is. Yeah, as you can see that there is a I button over here. You can click on that, and same you will be able to see in the data tables form. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. Great. We are perhaps in a very good way, to the point that, well, we might need something other than just a string of buttons, or we might need like a menu that has, so that's something to think about, something to create a design about, if there's any designers on the call. Good. And then when someone goes to publish, they get presented this same, they have an opportunity to update this information at that moment in time. Is that right?
Yeah, so if you already save the information over here, so if you go on the publish model, it will be already present over there and you can easily edit and then publish again.
I wonder just if you, well, I guess this is a recorded demo, but if you were to, the card were to flip around and people see the YAML on the inside, they can type in edits to the YAML. I think there's a save button, maybe a delete button. I wonder how this corresponds. I wonder if there isn't a way of maybe bringing a lot of this together as opposed to individual modules. I don't know. I think the YAML editor has a maximize on it. So it might be the case that something like that YAML editor might fit into the same modal as this. And to the extent that someone really wants to edit it, but they're probably going to click they would click maximize to go for a larger screen to edit. But yeah, so that might be one way of kind of cutting down on some of, because in some respects, this info button, it's not too dissimilar from an edit modal. And when you click on the card and it flips over, that basically is the edit modal. So those two things seems like there might, if someone were to spend a little bit of time in Figma, maybe we would figure out a way to bring those, consolidate that.
Yeah, because we are having so many actions, like we are starting having so many actions. Like if you go on the design page and if you click on the for the data table view, you will see lots of action that you can perform, and it's kind of confusing. Either we can have an ellipsis or we can have a new design for these cards. Yeah, so we need that. So yeah, this is an update from my side. Okay, so then what should I do? Like, allow everyone to edit the information, because right now only owner can update the information that they will save.
If it's public, perhaps everybody. If it's private, perhaps just the owner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yash. So Parthiv would like to share update.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let me share my screen. So, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible. And just a quick note for others who you don't have to ask about your screen is visible or you're audible. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so,
Parthiv, you can go ahead.
so I am working on this icon for Meshery Postgres component and the Kubernetes component, and I made a PR. Just a second. So I was just asking for the component image should we look like this or in SVG?
It should be an SVG.
Like just looking for the mesh model Kubernetes and Postgres component. So should I have to create an image like this in SVG?
Yes. Yes, that's what it says in the issue, in the instructions. Yep, you should create an SVG. You have a new icon. Moreover, by the way, that elephant, the Postgres elephant, it's already an SVG that's included inside of Mesh Model and used across a number of components. So probably if you're looking to, propose the use of that elephant, you're all set already. Like that one, we already have that one. And So that you would be good to go. You could choose a different component and work on an icon for a different one.
Like for Kubernetes, is it like this? Because I created like a SVG of the Kubernetes icon, but it shows that the icon needs to be created for the component, not for the Kubernetes model. So is the Kubernetes icon look like this?
No,
Like,
yeah, I was telling you about the icons that you added in the file in the new icons folder. So those were of Kubernetes, not of, these are you these icons that you are suggesting in the comment. So
yes.
yeah, so like I was telling about to use these kind of icon, not what you added. So like, and also like when you create a SVG of any of the component, make sure like you don't use the text in the icon, so because we don't do that. So
No, the images I have posted in the comment, they are just
yeah,
like normal images. They are not SVGs. I was just asking if
yeah,
I
you
have
can
to
create
write
like
this.
these. Yeah. Yeah, you
Okay,
can
okay.
convert these into SVG and yeah, remove like for the Kubernetes icon that you have in the image, make sure if you are creating the SVG for that, you make sure like you remove the text below the icon. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, then I will change it and make a PR and update the PR.
All right. Thanks, Pradeep. And Pranav has also shared a link you should check out in chat.
Sure.
All right. So next up is an update from Akshay. So Akshay, would you like to present your item?
Yeah, just give me a sec to share the thing. Okay, so while I was just looking for a bug in the local setup, then I came across this select all anomaly, which was supposed to be working for disallowing all the selected items in that particular drop down menu, and it wasn't working properly. So the thing that I changed was in this PR, and okay, so in this PR I added one of the functionalities, which is just an if and else block. If the context include the all already, then we just have to like delete all of the existing one, because we have to unselect all the selected one, because select all have the functionalities of unselecting all the selected one when it's supposed to be unchecked. And the second was just I was looking a few of the codes below, and it was doing the filter thing twice, and it can be done in one single go. That's why I changed it. And I would love to hear some of your thoughts if you have any questions or queries.
Yeah, actually, like the change is right because I think I had a PR about the same change previously. I don't know why the changes are gone, but like, yeah, this is the correct thing to do. And thanks for the small optimization below. Like, this was fine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's about it from my side about this PR, and it's still under review. And if it's got merged, then I will be really grateful.
Yeah, you can like work on other issues also. It's not like if a PR is up, you can't work on other issues. So don't worry about that.
But suggesting that is always a clever way to try to force people to merge your PR. But it's up to you. You can sequence your work, or you can do things in parallel. Either way.
Sure, thanks for the tip.
All right. Thanks, Akshay. So Andrew would like to give an update on the previous setup in Meshery UI.
Yes. Okay. Uh, All right. So one of the major things that we have done recently is to update and migrate the Meshery UI to use Prettier. And since it was long overdue, we had a mixture of files that were used with single quote and double quote. You have a lot that were, let's see, formatted from, the person's local development on their PC. So this right here is just a PR that we had merged sometime a couple days ago. And so that means that any future PRs, you need to make sure, well, it should run the pre-commit hook whenever you commit, and added all of the files to make you commit, and it should make the changes for you. However, if it doesn't always. It's always better to just go ahead and just format, make sure it does what it's supposed to do, and then the pre-commit should take care of the rest of it. I am working on creating a document. I'm sorry, updating the document to show just a little bit of issue that you may run into, but generally it should be just taken care of from the pre-commit. And so let's see. And as I mentioned before, whenever you lint, you're linting with Next.js, but not with ESLint. So you may have some false positive because of the difference in between them. But over time, if you have any questions about it, just let me know, and I'll try to add on to the document as we go over.
Yeah, Antoinette, what will we do in those cases? Do you think you'll end up disabling those particular lint checks in ESLint?
Yes, so that was one of the things that we had changed. That any of the formatting that was done by the by ESLint or in the rules, that was then moved to Prettier. However, if there are specific rules that we need to disable or turn off or just turn it as a warning, I would say for now just use it as a warning before turning it off completely, because we may have some use cases we do need to check for before we turn it off completely. But the difference here is you have the linting. We want to keep the linting just to be linting, and then we have the one for the formatting just to be formatting. You could coexist, but here we're defining completely. Okay, you have one with Prettier, which is for the which is supposed to be anytime that you want to lint. And as you can see, there's an extension, and then there's also a plugin as well. So the lint is just taking on the extra settings from Prettier, and then if you just use lint, and it will try to take care of everything else for you. But if for whatever reason that Prettier doesn't do, I mean the linting doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you can use Prettier and it should take care of the rest of them. However, we may run into certain files that don't need to be formatted, and then we just need to add that to the Prettier ignore. And so the list will increase over time. As you can see, we ignored this because we don't need the relay generated to be formatted. And ESLint and compared, we don't need those to be, and even the next the TypeScript definition file, we don't need that. So if you see any other, feel free to create a new PR and add into the Prettier ignore. It would actually be better so that everybody who's contributing can try to provide some feedback on that. Because I don't know, well, I have an idea, but I don't want to ignore it if we do need to format it or not. So.
Yeah, good. I think that answered my question. What I was asking, what I was trying to get at is, I get that there's a need to run both, well, Prettier and ESLint, two different, utilities for utilities for similar but distinct purposes. But the overlap between ESLint and Next.js lint or next lint rather, is if there are false positives that we see from ESLint, do you think that what might happen over time is the disablement of just specific ESLint checks, or is doing that potentially too dangerous?
Well, what Next.js does is they have their own, it's like a wrapper. They wrap the ESLint and they cover the most common rules out there.
Okay.
Which is why ESLint, some of the rules that we had, well, actually here, the net right here, this is just basic. I'm not even using the core, the one they recommend, because that would make the lint output very noisy, because it's a lot more to cover. So this is just it, basic, fine for right now, but somewhere in the future, once we get a little bit more get our handle on UI and get more updated, we'll be able to use the rest of it. But I should say by the end of the day, case by case, so we may need to check on that as we go.
Nice. That was good. Near as I understand now, I think that was a very kind response, because my question was, I think, ill phrased, like that isn't Next.js lint wraps ESJS or ESJS or ESLint. So it was kind of a poorly phrased question, but so this makes much more sense now. And this is just, in that vein, it's just enhancing what we've already been doing. We've been using ESLint directly, mostly that. We hadn't really been using Prettier or enforcing that. And because of that, sometimes we end up with PRs that where someone might make a change to a single file and on a single line, but it looks like there's 55 lines that have been changed, and it makes it difficult to maintain and review. And so, yeah, there's the whole. And so you were noting also that part of what will run here for, I think, for NextLint and Prettier is that those will be run as a pre-commit hook, in addition to probably running them. Is it mostly just the pre-commit hook, or are we also embedding those into a workflow? I wonder if we need to.
It's through lint save, because you have to run by the, well, actually, I think I need to, actually, I might need to update that. But you, from what I've seen, that if you try to, what's that? If you try to run directly from node module, it runs a little bit different than when you run through npm. But yeah, so we have it through the lint save like normal, but it's a file itself, because we it's better that way to have a file defined. And then it's also through Husky through the pre-commit. So they change into the directory and it runs that particular command. So as far as the workflow, the only thing that we have for the workflow is the ESLint that's running just ESLint. So this needs to be updated to use the NetLint. Now, if you want to make sure that we cover both, I don't mind not making changes here. Because like I said, there may be some things that we might be missing, but from what I've read, Next.js already covers most of it, most of the common ones. But they do have a style guide repository that we can take a look and then try to well, that would be the next thing that I'm suggesting, to make some improvement on that. Just look at their style guide and then just kind of go from there. But that, so far, this is, none of that has been changed in the workflow. The only thing different is just the adding the lint save as a separate file.
All right. Thanks, Antoinette. Let's move to next item. Abid has 2.
Thanks. So actually, I made 2 PRs to the assistant repo. Once like I had added the code gen that we use for creating RTK query scaffold from OpenAPI schema. So I added a package for it into the assistant. It says now a separate package called RTK query code gen. So we can now install it in any of our repos to start like using the code gen facilities. It's like a CLI takes only 2 params there, input schema YAML and the output for the API. So this one, and I also added a few components to the assistant repo under the components package, namely like the error boundaries. So we have started using error boundaries in Meshery. So you might have some, we do now crash the whole application. We just show the crashed component and we show a message there. So as we go on using it pervasively throughout our repos, so I thought to centralize the components for it. So it is based on the React error boundary package, and it ties together the fallback components and how we handle errors. And I just added a few more components like the higher order component for it and a suppressed error boundary. So what this one does, it like if a component crashes, like if it's a small button that got crashed or some small component, we don't want to show the big error boundary there to like it makes the UI look bad. So we just hide that component and we like log the message. So it, or we, in future we can like have some remote like error handling also, but currently it just logs the error and hides the component. So I also added like a component for this error boundary, and that's all from me. Any feedback or questions?
Yeah, when do you expect, excuse me, when do you expect it will have the first use in mesh in cloud, with particularly like with the error boundary?
Actually, like we should now, like the thing is like the reason for having a separate components is like with like using these components, we don't need any configuration for the error boundaries. We need to send any props, like we can quickly wrap our components with the error boundary and we can get the most of the benefit. So the thing is like how we do error boundaries in Meshmap currently is like we have a try catch all at the top, like it's the top level app error boundary. So it catches all the errors at the top, but it's good for Meshmap because it loads as an extension and it doesn't crash the whole app. But like when we start using like granularly, it adds more benefit. Like if a small component has crashed, only that one should handle the error, not whole the app. Otherwise, it's the same thing like crashing whole app if we only add a top. So what we should now start doing is like whenever we expect a component to doing something like non-trivial, like it's not a simple component, like it's not a simple presentation component, like it has some logic in it, we need to have the, like wrap it in an error boundary. It's like if it's a we can wrap it in a higher order component with like a with error boundary, and it will do everything for us. Or we can also, if it's in a like we have a complex component, we can also add like a wrapper for like the child component. So it makes like it easy to wrap the components, and we should do it more like on a fine granular scale. Like there is a balance, like we can't we should not wrap it every single component, then it would complicate the code. But it's like whenever we expect a component to doing something like more or a non-trivial, we should definitely wrap it in an error boundary so it doesn't crash anything. Like it works just like a try catch statement, like it bubbles up, like if this component crashes, it will bubble up to the upper error boundary and it goes till like it reaches the top level error boundary. So the fine, like the more deep level we go with the error boundary, the better it is.
Also,
Thanks.
like
Yeah, go ahead, Pranav.
also I think like when we would be like initiating our user account extensions, then we can probably use them, because those like usually sometimes they fail because of some issues, and if we have their boundary in them as well, then it would be helpful. Those also plug in like an extension like Meshmap.
Now that's like I added a system, so we have consistency. Like if an error boundary in Meshmap should look similar to that in Meshery, so it doesn't confuse users, and we can use it more in Meshmap also, or any extension as is now. And package in like system. So if anybody else is making an extension, he can also use the same error boundaries from here. Also regarding like, I think if anybody has a question, I will just then start. Like it's with the RTK query as we started like having it, we'll now have it in Meshery. There's an open issue on creating workflows regarding the generation of like the code gen. So there's an issue that we created yesterday. I will link in the chat. If anybody wants to work on a GitHub workflow, you can jump on that.
Oh yeah, it's right there. A couple of open issues around this. There is a call for examples or a bit of an update, maybe in the README, and I'm not sure which README, but probably a README inside of Systent. Abid, with respect to Abid, that's what I was going to ask as well. It's like it sounds like we can capture the errors. Maybe we would accidentally capture the errors too many times, or there would be too many stops along the way as things bubble up. And then is maybe one concern. The other concern is, how do we ensure that every single page, every single component, or every single, wherever it's appropriate, like how do we ensure full coverage? And so you don't necessarily have to speak to it at the moment if you don't want to, but just.
Yeah, like for pages, it's simple, like we can have it on the layout, like in Meshery, I did the error boundary in layout or and on the individual page. So like an individual page gets, like we had earlier, the design page was crashing, so it was only showing inside that page and the whole UI was not crashing. So another thing regarding like how we would ensure, like one thing is like whenever a new component is added, like we can check in the PR, like we could ensure like an error boundary is also handled. Like I don't think if there is any lint rule for it, but I think we can create our own lint rules also to ensure like components have an error boundary. And the thing is, like with the thing you mentioned, like if there might be too many stops, that's the reason I added this suppressed error boundary. So it won't like crash like the component or anything. It will just hide the component that got crashed. So user won't know, like if there is just a button that got crashed or a small thing that got crashed, we'll usually use the suppressed error boundary for that. Like the thing that users should, like for sometimes like a user might get confused, like there was something like this design was here, but it's not showing. He would get confused. Is the problem with his account? But sometimes we can just hide things, and that time we can use the suppressed error boundary. Otherwise, it's good to show user that it's our fault. The UI has crashed for this component. It's not you, like you have not messed up yourselves. So it's that balance to use between these two.
Sorry for interrupting. I think you are mute.
We still can't hear you, although you are unmuted.
Never mind. I'm having microphone challenges. Please continue without me.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay. Thanks, Abid. Anything else from you, or let's move to next item?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Cool. So Senadi has two updates, one on connection and one on fonts. Do we have Senali? Okay.
So I fixed an update about the connection data table sorting. So I have opened a PR for that one. So now we have this arrow for sort data table connection data in each and every field of the data table. So that's the update. about connection sort. The next update regarding there was an issue in some component not applying we define font in the theme. It's the main reason for that is we use MUI 5 component. That the reason for not applying the we define font. So because we define our theme in version 4, so I have update all the component imports from the MUI to version 4, so that will fix the font issue. So that's the update regarding the font issue. So anyone have doubts or question about this?
Any question or feedback for Sonali?
So like Sonali, like with this change, like will we like now automatically have the Canada soft font like implemented, because like some place it was previously getting overridden.
Which one?
Like this font, the Canada soft font, like it was getting overridden, and so we had to manually put it into CSS like for components.
Yes, we can do that, but we use that font defined in our theme, so it apply for all the components we use in MUI version 4, because we define our theme in version 4. When we use version 5 components, the font we define in the theme was not applied, but we can apply our font in each and every component level. But I think it's better to use one version, like not mix both. That's why
Yeah, like it's good to have it in theme. So we do like one thing, like I think internet will answer it, like is can we like if we create a theme also for the MUI version 5 components, then we might be able to like gradually migrate to like MUI 5 also, like because I think what I think is like these MUI 5 components are by accidental imports, like nobody like wanted them. But if we have also like compatibility with that, then we might start using them. But I don't know, it might be have some problem with the React version or something.
Like we can define them, but I have no idea. But we can wrap it in a theme wrapper. So is it possible to use two wrappers? That was the problem. I think we can use only one wrapper for a theme. So I think we need to use one version, if 4 or 5. So I think like using both at one time is not possible, I think.
Yeah, like this is like important also, but as we are moving to MUI, this gets a bit complicated there. So we then need to go back to have all components from MUI version 4. I will see like if there is any way to have that compatibility. Otherwise, we need to merge this.
Yes, I think we need to migrate all the components at once.
Well, actually, I want to provide a little bit of background on that. So whenever I first came on last year, one of the things that I did mention in some of the phone calls, the meetings that we had, we could have migrated to Material UI version 5, but at that time last year, the migration guide was not detailed as it is now. So a lot of it was just, green area. I mean, we could test it, we could try to get it going, and then you would be stopped because there could be a use case that hasn't been covered by Material UI. But right now they do have a migration guide. But that's the reason for why we are pushing to do the design system so that we can already have the styles in place and then just use the component directly. Instead of having to define the style in 2, 3 different places, it's already defined in the design system. So that's what I'm aiming to try to get done. And while I would advocate that we need to move to the version 5, but we would be doing double work if we use Meshery package, and then now we have to move to a system component. So I hate that we were still kind of stuck in between. I get the frustration, I get it, but that's the reason for the design system. And so we have most of the components, but I don't have the theme just yet because I'm trying to gather all of the colors and the styles and the most common ones from all of the repos, not just the one that we have here. But we still have to account for what Next.js does too, because Next.js 13 also allows you to import the font locally, globally, and it can just be one line and that's it. And that can be defined by the design system directly instead of having us to do it within Meshery UI or Meshery Cloud. But for temporarily, it's up to whoever's making the review to have it added in until we get the definite theme and system design system.
Also, like we need to wait for the migration. Like first, let's complete the design system, then directly migrate to the design system rather than migrating to Material UI 5, and that completely makes sense. So I think we should then just remove the Material UI 5 from Meshery UI because these are like I think these are accidental imports. Like ID automatically sometimes imports and it imports from Material UI 5. That's why these issues are getting.
Does that help, Sonali? Okay,
Yes.
cool. So Pranav, I would like to share your updates.
Yes. So I'll go with my
Hello? Hello? Okay.
okay, so I'll go over my
Hello?
updates.
Hello? Lee asked if I could share my screen. Am I still allowed? Because I've not been able to find my way around on how to contribute. So
Abhi,
Lee,
okay.
yeah, I was asked by Lee in the comments. Is Lee still on the call? He asked me in the comments if I was willing to share my screen. Can I proceed?
I think Lee is no, we can't hear Lee, but I think if after we have 5 minutes more left and a couple of items to discuss, so let's discuss it after we have discussed those others a bit. So Pranav, I think you can go ahead.
Okay. So I have 2 items to discuss. One is about fixing collaborator extension point, re-rendering. So a little bit of context, quick context, that is Meshery as an extensible cloud native manager supports different of extension points. The work of this extension point is to enhance the base functionality of Meshery. These extension point comes based on the which remote provider you connect to, and you can connect to either a remote provider or local provider. And yes, so currently we have 4 extension point. One is navigator, other is user prefs. Then we have a user account. The fourth one is collaborator, which was recently added. So navigator is a full page extension point. User pref is a component based extension point. User account is also full page extension point, and collaborator is also a single component based extension point. So there was a recent issue that is like it used to re-render when you were switching between the pages, and the issue was I fixed in this PL last weekend, and the issue was like the problem is whenever we switch between the pages, this component, this header component re-renders itself. The reason for it re-rendering is because like whenever whenever the props which are passed to a React component changes, the React component re-renders because props are changed. So it has to re-render itself. And the props which were basically changing were this title, because when you move between the pages, title changes. So since title was changing, so other things were also being re-rendered, and that is why the user account extension was being mounted and unmounted when you were moving between pages. So I fixed that by memoizing our user account extension point, which basically means now that, which means, yes. So what I did was I have added a condition. First of all, I memoized the component, which is here. And what I've done is that now there is a condition which checks whether the new type, which is with basically the type of extension point which we are passing, whether it changes. If it changes, only then we would be re-rendering. If the extension point, the type is exactly same, then we don't have to re-render. That means because the extension point is already mounted on the DOM. So by doing this, it's worked perfectly fine. And this is already merged. So in new release, we won't be seeing an effect of like this. So here's a quick recording. So now if I move between the pages, this never re-renders, and only the new or the people who leave or join the room, they just either get appended or pushed out of this point. So yes. So this is one thing. Any questions on this? Okay.
Yeah, one thing is like if we for the like the header component, if like the title is only changing, like then we could create a separate component for title. And I think it's possible through Redux, so like the sibling components will not re-render, and if there's some issue with other components also getting like re-rendered according to, then that might be fixed, but like it's an enhancement, not related to it.
Yeah, actually, the Gates context also is a subscription based. So whenever a subscription realizes that there's a new context which is passed to it, so it also requires re-rendering, because only then the one would be changed to 2 or 3 based on which cluster you're connected to. So ideally, what we have to do is like make separate component for title and this Gates context feature. Currently, everything is just one component, so that is the issue.
Yeah, so we can create an issue for that for someone.
So yeah, so this is one thing. The other thing, which was a recent issue which we discovered recently, that is like if you go to Meshery Playground and you try to publish any of your designs, then you are not allowed. You are not able to do that. The reason for that is like there is a API for fetching models of a mesh. All the models registered by all the mesh models registered by Meshery server, and the problem is like that API is taking too many. The response time is too much, and I've actually almost fixed it. Like I'll complete this PR after this call. The problem is, first thing what I've done is that like there are so many issues which I realized after working on this. The first thing which I have to fix is just remove this loop, because I've updated this get models handler, which is a GORM handler written inside a meshkit to return what we require, so that we don't have to do any manipulation in Golang. This is first thing. The second PR is in meshkit, on which I'm working on right now. Like first thing which I fixed was the very first problem which I don't know we have time to discuss over that. The problem is like currently what we are doing is we are re-registering all of our hosts. So host is like the thing which register a particular mesh model. So by default we support 2 right now, Artifact Hub and Kubernetes. But currently if you realize that we have around 4,000 components, and our way of registering is that we are registered 4,000 hosts, which is incorrect because Artifact Hub is just one. So we should be registering it just once. So this fixes one part of that. And the second part is like I would be just updating the query to get models, so that we just give the response what we require, and we don't do any like manipulation in Golang. So only one part of this PR is left, and I'll fix that. Yeah, actually, yeah, there are a couple more things. I don't know if we have time to go over that, but yeah, so I'll fix it and then I'll tell what the issues are. So now what this area does is that if we already have that host, then we won't register it, we'll just return that. Otherwise, we'll register it. So yes. There's one more issue if you want to discuss. The issue is that we don't register models in our entities table. So currently what we register is just components and relationships. We don't register models. So I'll fix that as well in this PR. So yes. Any questions on this?
Wow. Oh, now my mic works. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable that we were in that situation up to today. So yeah, what an enhancement.
I can show you also, like in a registries table, we have just two types, component relationship. Ideally, it should be models as well, but we don't register models in a registry table. So I'll fix this.
I could just choke somebody right now. Someone named Ashish. That's great. That's sounds like you're using SQL to do what it was meant to do. Cool. So I get last question, Pranav. Are you, all of the changes that you had made to the function to retrieve models, had you had a chance to look across the various components to confirm that change, that those clients are kosher with that change?
Yeah, that's fine. Actually, I realized that like what we are returning what we're returning host name and host ID, and this actually is not used anywhere in a UI. I've seen it because we only use models so far. What we require is host is for our mesh model browser. So even if I do any changes, it wouldn't affect anything. But I'll still ensure that whatever we were returning, we'll return that. Okay. Actually, this is not used anywhere in the UI.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Pranav. And since we are 4 minutes over, we'll be covering rest of the items in next meeting. And just an thing for Abhindu. So I think you can share your issue, whatever you are facing, on the discussion forum. So we can cover that over there. And with that, I think we are good to wrap today's meeting. This meeting is live stream on YouTube, so you can catch up the recording and watch out the topics again. So, all right. And this week on Friday, we have Hacktoberfest prep event. Saurabh will definitely share a link in chat. Make sure you join and start your open source journey with Layer 5. So with that, thanks all for joining today's Meshery development meeting. We'll meet you next week, same time, same place. All right. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Bye, Gaurav. Thanks, Gaurav. See you guys. Bye. See you Friday.
Bye, everybody. I'll chat you up, Lee. I'll chat you up personally, Lee. Too.
Okay.
It's a beautiful talk. Yeah. Bye.